I had to do the shopping.
Had to
go into the laundry.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
going on.
What about but you started saying about your the book on the skate, Mum. What's that?
Oh, book and skate.
Yes.
Well, one of the great I did have a bike as well, Justin.
I mean, it literally is a book.
Yeah, what you do? That's right. We started off with that as well, wasn't it? When we were asking what we did. So what it is you get your annual Beano, because that was one thing my parents did buy us, the annual Christmas. We always had an annual book. So you have a pair of rolling skates because when you're a child, you have a scooter. You have roller skates. You used to roller skate all the time. And if you're lucky, or you had a bike as well, so I had all of them. But what you do is, so you've got Clerkenwell, and you've got where you go down right down the hill, because all the buses, like the what was it? What used to turn there? I'm trying to remember. 243 or whatever. All these buses turn, and that's where they turn around Clerkenwell Green. That's their the stop, the end stop, and then they go back on. So the buses used to come round. That's the hill. You've got Karl Marx Library there, and then you go right to the bottom of the hill, and you turn around. Then you've got Clarkswell, which is the water well for the whole. It's very, very old. I don't know how, whatever.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to just Roman times, doesn't it? Londinium. I think just outside the gates.
Which it is where we were. Yeah. So what you do is you're at the top of the hill, but it is a hill if you can remember, Justin, it isn't a hill like that. It is a steep hill, but it has a good momentum to build up.
Yes, I remember.
So what you do is you put your skate down, you put your book on the skate, then you sit yourself on the skate. You put your legs right out like this, and then you go off and you go down right down the hill, and then when you get to the bottom, instead of flying off into the middle of the road, you angle yourself to the right, and you go around the corner, and then you pick up your book, and all these poor people coming. All they can do is these kids coming down there. So book and skate was fantastic, Justin. I suppose in a way it's the precursor to skateboard.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because you've got your roller skates, four wheels, and you've got a book on it, and you sit on it, and it is.
Well, that's like the scooter as well, isn't it? The scooter is also.
But you're standing up. Oh yeah, I suppose of course it is. Yeah, so sitting on it and everything.
Obviously. No, exactly. Yes.
So that was the book and skate. So that's what you did, Justin.
What about your dad though? Because you said that your dad.
Oh, that was funny. Because by the time we used to always do it for some poor reason. It was always in the daytime when people were at work. So you're going down the hill. You've got all these people, because Clerkenwell.
I'd like to stop there for a minute or two just to have a look at the history of Clerkenwell. So at the bottom, or near the bottom of the hill where my mum was on her book and skate, is the Clerk's Well. So if we walk along here, you can see they've actually got a window which you can look through and see the original well, which is still there. I didn't get a chance, but I think you can organise to go inside, but otherwise it's inaccessible from the street. So, as I said, we walk down past the pub here, where all the parked buses are, and you can see we're going to go up to number 16, and they've got a sign showing the Clerk's Well, and there's the Clerk's Well. It looks a bit a bit like a toilet, but it's well over 1,000 years old, I'd say. I mean, I think it's 11. I think it was officially first mentioned just under 900 years ago, but I'm sure it's much older than that. So the bricks around it, lots of them are still Tudor brick design. So if you look through the window, you can see there's a plaque there, and I think that's pretty much from about 1800. I think this the plaque's just giving some history about the area, and it says AD 1800, William Bound and Joseph Bird, church wardens. For the better accommodation of the neighbourhood, this pump was removed to the spot where it now stands. The spring by which it is supplied is situated 4 feet eastward, and round it, as history informs us, the parish clerks of London in remote ages annually performed sacred plays. That custom caused it to be denominated Clerkenwell, and from which this parish derived its name. The water was greatly esteemed by the prior and the brethren of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem and the Benedictine nuns in the neighbourhood. This tablet, which was formerly fixed on the site of the ancient Clerk's Well, viz. The Pump House No. 2, Ray Street, 119 yards westward, was fixed here as a memento of the past in 1878. W.J. Harrison and George Blackie, church wardens. So, I mean, it's just fantastic that they're identified that in, for example, the 12th century, 13th century, 14th century, 15th century, and obviously in the 16th century when it was there was the dissolution. This is where St. John's and the Benedictine nuns were based. So that's the focus of, or the Benedictine nuns especially is the focus of this video today. So again, you know, it's a wonderful, there's like a nice little they've actually got a pump or a tap as part of the display. And again, so that's why it's called Clerk's Well. And this was accessible to, I think, on the street probably. You can see here, this is what the original nunnery, which was built, looked like. It was sort of, you know, very large space that took up the whole of this area. I think my mum's house was pretty much where the gates, the entrance gates were, the street in, and it would have been part of the gatehouse on the way in. And I think they've mentioned about I'll show the report afterwards, but one of the local history societies was saying about how there would have been, although it's a nunnery, it could have been quite mixed. It was quite a small nunnery, I think only about 16 nuns, and I think it would have been mixed sex. I think there was enough space there for male workers were in there and priests as well. So, so an interesting place. It was there for a very long time. And so again, if we just think about on the map, you've got Farringdon Road. Now Farringdon Road is basically where the Fleet River ran down. So if we go back, way back to 300 AD, and this is a artist's impression of Londinium, and you can see there's a London Bridge there, so you can see there's London Bridge, and far down on the left you can see the river. So that's the Fleet, and that flows up from the side of Londinium, so which became London up until the 1800s, where the river was still flowing out from there, and it goes from there all the way up to the top of Hampstead, which I showed in a previous video showing where my old school New End was, up in Hampstead, where the River Fleet flew. I think I said that before. Flowed underneath the school and then down to the Thames. So you can see how the fleet, how important the fleet was. And so if we follow our eyes up on that side, so Clerkenwell is not too far outside the city walls, and obviously the well would have been a small offshoot from the main river, which was flowing very close to it. So I love this this picture. I've got it up on my wall at home because I feel like it's just showing like how this one river is such an important part of London. So at this time, for example, in the 1500s, the river was still very clearly moving. So we can see from this 1560 map, it clearly shows in blue the Fleet River on the left hand side, and right next to it you can see in blue that's Clerkenwell. So it's a wonderful interactive map that you can access on the internet, so I'll leave a link there. But you can just see, so this is 1560 and it's showing London, and you can see on the left the Fleet River, which pours out into the Thames, as it did do in Roman times. But by this time, this is pretty much, I think it would have been closed. The nunnery, I think, would have just been closed or closing because of the dissolution, which had already happened by 1560. So Clerkenwell would change quite quickly, and this is more of a close-up of the area. You can see how close the River Fleet is running. I think it sort of disappears for a bit and then it reappears as it moves up into North London. And you can see there's Smithfield. So Smithfield is just outside the gates, and then there's Clerkenwell not far above it. And again, this is the City of London in 1560. We've got the Fleet River, which is running down into the Thames, and we've got the city walls around the city. There's the Tower of London, and there's Clerkenwell. And if we move a bit closer, you can just see how this is the only main river. Blackfriars Gate was built in the following century. I think there was only I think Westminster Bridge, and then Blackfriars was later. So there was only but Blackfriars basically is built where the Fleet River was. So if we have a close up, we can see again. Very interesting. There's Smithfields. There's the city wall. So the cattle are coming, and then they're killing the cattle, butchering them, and then selling the meat in the market. And they kept that outside, just like the executions. It's all a bit grim, but and they said, Clerkenwell, the nunnery is just up the road there. You've got the river, and if we go in a bit closer, we can actually see they've got the drawing of the well here. So it's just on the corner there. So it looks very much like it's accessible to the main road. So obviously people would have. That's where they were talking about having the theatre, because of the well there. So they'd have theatre plays, and just a very nice, pleasant place to visit at this time. I think a lot of sort of the wealthy and nobility in that either had places here or came to visit here. So very interesting. Just thinking about how it was. As I said, if the well was there, it could have been there much old. It could be much older than before the nunnery and the Normans arrived, and it makes perfect sense that there's probably well there well before them in the Saxon times, and maybe before. So and again, very special place. There's just a short look at the nunnery that was in that
and what I was asking about is when they first moved, the history of just like moving to Clerkenwell, because you know what it is when you're a child, you remember certain things, and so he was telling me all, again, like the different backgrounds of the pubs and everything. So that was because, as you know, I was born just after the war in 46, so all the people, near enough everyone, Justin, were living in 2 rooms or 3 rooms. We had 3 rooms in Clerkenwell.
Was the bomb site still there in Clerkenwell?
Oh, the bomb site was there for years and years and years. Yes.
But I didn't. Clerkenwell always looks like it hasn't changed, or
it just behind. It was the pub opposite my house, our old house. Round the corner, just round the bend, which I think became a car park. Do you remember you said to me, "Oh, it's a car park there now"? So what it is the bomb ruins was in Clerkenwell, just round the corner from the Three Kings, literally with the church on the other side, side of the church. And then the whole bomb ruins was down to where the buses, on Clerkenwell Green. So where the buses were, so that whole thing was a bomb site.
But when did Grandad move in there then, into Clerkenwell?
They moved, no, after.
After?
Yeah, so that
After
when I was born. Do you know, he never said that. That's one thing yeah. Otherwise they would be down in Dagenham, but of course there were so many children, still 7 brothers living at home.
Right, yeah.
So, or had one of my mother's brothers gone to Canada already? No, he hadn't, no.
No. So it says Dagenham's where they got married, wasn't it? Is that where you met your mum?
Yes.
Was it set up like a family matchmaking?
No, I don't think so, Justin. I think just that Grandad still fixing, and of course being Irish, Southern Irish, of course Ireland wasn't involved in the Second World War, so Grandad, or your dad, or my dad, sorry, your grandfather, they were able to come to England because they desperately needed workforce, Justin. So like he was working as a still fixer. I've always suspected, years later, Sheila and I wondered if he got my mother pregnant. So if I look at them, Sheila's got all their marriage, she's got all the marriage certificates, she's got everything. So I was born in April. I think their anniversary was June, their wedding anniversary. So, because it's the war time.
Wedding.
Well, no, not really, because that I was
parents.
Well, Mum and Dad never actually spoke. It's an interesting, and we never even thought to really question them. There was always like, well, they got married after the war, could have been, and there's not a lot of men around, just because of all the, well, they had come home. Sorry, by then, or maybe they hadn't. But of course, that when I was birth to me, there was no room in the hospitals.
And that's in Hatfield one.
That's why we went to the state. You know, the stately house there had been turned into a hospital.
Yeah.
So that's why I was born in a stately house.
Yeah, no, it's on your birth certificate, isn't it? I remember.
Yeah. It's not. God, what's the name? Every time I keep.
Hatfield House, Mum?
No, it wasn't. No, I wasn't born in Hatfield House, darling.
I'm sure that's what it says on the birth. Like when you live at Clerkenwell, did it feel like there was like a bubble, or because I remember like living in Bloomsbury, you sort of feel like Tottenham Court is down the road, but it feels like very alien.
Yes, yeah. I don't know about that. I suppose.
I spent a lot of time in Clerkenwell.
Yeah. I don't know, Justin, because it's like anything where you grow up. You know. Clerkenwell was very interesting because, as I said, it's in the daytime. You've got all the silversmiths. You know, you've got all that whole area. They were crafts people that worked there. You know, so there was the industry, but they're more like houses. You know, there was no offices as such there. They were all that, and so that's why when I got knocked down, because we used to play in the middle. You know, where the trough is, where now they've made it all. Pedestrian, you know, when we sat outside that time, that was just still an island there, you know,
so
and cars coming round, but you just got very used to it. And again, you know, the buses terminated at Clerkenwell Green, so you had the 217, the 234 or something. I can't remember now, but you know, they would come round and you know, again, I was very, very little, so my memories are. Just being on my own was going to my Uncle Vi and Uncle Ted's when because they lived off the King's Road, or on the King's Road, but they lived in one of those coach houses, Justin.
This is in Chelsea, is it?
Yeah.
You told me about that.
Yes.
You actually went on your own.
Asking me about why did he miss it? He didn't, Justin, and I think like you know, England has a lot more freedom. You know, there was a lot more freedom, even just after the war. And of course, because of my father's politics, he had friends like I was older then, so Sheila was probably born by then. I don't remember, but he was friends with Dominic Bean and the playwright who had the theatre, Joan Littlewood. Justin, in Whitechapel. Well, anyway, and they'd go there sometimes. But it was a whole mixture, you know, because all the especially big cities, must have been like that in Birmingham or Manchester, but especially London, Justin. It was so disparate. You know, you had people that had lived there, like in Clerkenwell, people had lived there, like the Selbys, and you know, so you had a whole mixture. And all the stories about the Duke's son who got the maid pregnant.
Oh yes, you love that. Yeah, of course.
But it was interesting, Justin. Where do you go to a pub and you have history like that, or the Duchess of Clerkenwell? You know, Mr. and Mrs. Bramwell with an old-fashioned Rolls Royce and a huge handlebar star and a full-size.
But it sounds like I mean, there are places like that. There are There's places that have a reputation, like Brighton, for example.
Yes, exactly.
Has that reputation. It's seedy. Yeah. There's a lot of people with money go there, but there's a lot of dodgy stuff going on, and everyone still wants to go there.
Yes. Yeah,
there are places like that, aren't
they? Real fascinating characters, and the characters like in Soho, Justin, that when I was at college, there was still people like Lucian Freud, I know it's Camden, and you had the other, who's the other guy, Justin? I always forget his name, the gay guy, you've got the British painters, Lucian Freud, and he was an alcoholic and always drank in the pub in well, what's the main street near my college? And then you've got Fritz Street goes off.
Shaftesbury Avenue, is it?
No. You know what? You know, like
is it
Compton Street? That's Soho, and then the streets. And so you still had all these characters around in the 80s, Justin.
Yeah, I know. They wouldn't die, would they?
No, exactly. So Clerkenwell was like that, Justin, and there must have been lots of other areas like that.
Absolutely.
But if you think within, if you did a circle, Justin, of Clerkenwell, you've got the church, you've got us, where Peabody, where we were, Justin. So the famous one where we went in. All the gangs were there. You've got the Three Kings. You've got the Crown, and at the bottom of the hill you have.
Yes, yeah.
Because what was there for people?
But I don't know. I wonder if there's another reason, because like where Kentish Town, like where we are, the reason there's so many pubs, an unusual amount of pubs, is because of the piano makers. So you'd have all these like young guys in these warehouses fixing pianos, and it was like thirsty work.
Yes.
So you'd have a larger amount of pubs than normal because of an industry.
Okay.
So in that I respect it's.
Well, it
could
could
be
be
some
the
sort of
same.
Well,
because they were all silversmiths and everything. They were silversmith. All that whole area were craftsmen. And don't forget, there was the old the big. What was it? It wasn't operating that the court there, Justin.
Right.
The court.
Yes.
And they still have the cells downstairs. So up until I think probably I don't know what I know it was the 20th century they stopped using it as a court, but people go on trial there. You know they would.
No, interesting.
You know you had that. You had that there. So.
Yeah, I mean the history's been, in that area is very well known. But it's interesting your dad moving there though, because like usually with immigrants you sort of go and live near other Irish people, don't you? Whereas he didn't, did he?
No.
He went out of his way to avoid.
Yeah, maybe he had a job up there, Justin, and they were looking for rooms.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
It's a
wonderful
very
place,
It's central.
It's a good decision.
It's a central place, and don't forget it strikes, because that's the whole thing of I'm All Right, Jack, which I absolutely love. You know that one with Ian Carmichael, who's just come down from Oxford or Cambridge, and his father's the factory. And he wants to introduce him to show. These are the workers in our factory, and they go in. You go, oh hello chappies, and you've got Peter Sellers, who's the shop steward. Oh, what are you doing, chappie? You're putting in it. Well, why don't you use that? And all of a sudden Peter says, right, everyone out.
Yes.
Because the man's only supposed to hit the nails.
Yes.
Someone's supposed to come along then and screw them in or something. It wasn't
taking
as
someone's job.
Because you can't have because that's what happened, Justin, isn't it? Before the Second World War. Working people had no rights whatsoever. So trade unions then, really started to get there. Do you remember I did say that he worked for Marple Ridgeways? Do you remember the Marple Ridgeways? Just have to laugh. Minister of Health Works and something.
Yes.
He was a minister.
No, that's right.
And of course, he's building roads. He's building houses. He's giving himself all these contracts. So when my father was made a still manager or whatever, I don't even know if he was a still manager then. Maybe he was working by then. He wasn't fixing just. He was working the office. He was running various things, and his boss above him was the colonel. We have no idea what his name was. Obviously Dad knew, but he was only ever referred to by everyone as the colonel.
Right.
And he came home one day, and again it was summertime. I don't know why I always think of the Clerkenwell was summertime, because of course it wasn't, but so he came home one day from work, one evening, early evening, and he said to my mother, he said, the back of so you've got the tube station, and you've got the the market, not Exmouth Street Market, where the canal is. He'd bought one of those brilliant houses, and my father says, do you know he paid £500 for that? I mean, they're worth millions. In fact, my friend, a really good friend of mine, you would have met her a few times, but you won't remember her now, but she was really nice. She was first year fashion, and we became good friends, and her uncle bought one of those houses there, and I went with her one day. She'd all come, because and we were going out somewhere. She'd all come and see my uncle's, and it had these beautiful, windows and everything. And I told her that story, and I think even then, Justin, he must have paid $1 million for. I mean, but my father thought he was mad.
Yes. Well, it's an odd thing, isn't it? Like, it is. No interest in getting a house or
no, because. He took his, radicalism or whatever you want to call it. He was always quoted to us, property is theft.
Right.
But it was all right to spend every penny in the pub.
Yes, I was going to say yes.
That was no.
Yeah.
I was earning £40 a week.
Yes.
£40 a week was a huge amount of money.
Yeah. Do you think he was giving it to his family as well, like his sisters? Or
No, by then, no. By the time he was earning 40, my sister had been born. We were living in Clerkenwell.
Yeah.
You know, no, that was. That was a lot of money.
Yeah. No, I mean, where do you think it all went? Because obviously he didn't go into.
He had savings.
Yeah,
no, he did save.
If he was helping his sisters as well.
No, he wasn't doing anything like that, and he didn't buy us any clothes. Wouldn't even buy us a Coke.
Yeah.
Do you know how much a Coke was? He could get a pint for, like, I don't know, 1 and 6.
Yes.
A Coke was about nearly 10 shillings, or was more than 10 shillings, Justin.
But it's interesting, I mean, but like with your mum as well, because like a lot of the time that's the thing as well, isn't it? Like the partner is like pushing you to, like, you know, say buy a house, for example. But
your mum
didn't.
Grandma, no. I think they were happy, Justin.
Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? Not funny that they're happy, but they lived in their 3 rooms. They had such a. If you think about, you think I'm very social and outgoing, and I stay in bed for days. But as soon as anyone says you're coming out, and I'm up dressed, and like you said to me, we'll do this, Mum. I go. My parents had all the people around Clerkenwell. Yes. Not everyone, but quite a few. Justin, we had parties in my house, and that tiny room, the tiny room. But it was always full of people, or we'd go to someone else's house, or they go, everyone socialised. Near enough, every few weekends we'd be down in Dagenham, just party. They had a social life. They didn't really need. The idea. Well, the thing is, they could have moved to the Angel Justin and bought a beautiful house for £500. But my God, my father thought the Colonel was losing his mind, because you'll never guess what, he's bought this house in Islington, £500.
But I guess you had good holidays as well, didn't you? Sort of
always went on holiday. We'd go in the summer. Regularly go up to Parliament Hill, Justin, because we'd get the 63 bus on Farringdon and that take us to Farringdon Road. That took us to that stopped at Parliament Hill, Gospel Oak.
Yeah.
Further up, with a turnaround. Yeah. I think the buses now go even further. They don't stop, but that used to be a turnaround. And they've got picnics. We had holidays every year. So there was that, and also by then, as I got older, my mother worked for Mrs. Bramwell in the Crown, and so I got a job cleaning the silver. Don't think I ever saw the money.
Anglo-Saxons started a market and trading port around Covent Garden and St Martin in the Fields, and then obviously London came back. We're starting to move to medieval times. The monastic order of the Knights Hospitallers of St John, founded in Clerkenwell in the 1140s as the English headquarters, so it's a very important, very special part. Outside of that, there's nothing of London, but that's the nunneries, the priory, the monastic order. They're front and centre in that area for about another 300 years or 400 years before there's any growth at all in that area. So Clerkenwell, it's been there. I'm sure it was there long before the Normans came. I'm sure the Anglo-Saxons came. It was a religious place. It's probably a Celtic religious place. They talk about Boudica fighting which in the area which became Battle Bridge, which became King's Cross. So I think there's a lot in those areas, but I'm sure Clerkenwell was a religious area or a special area before the Normans. But as we can see, even at this time, again, Clerkenwell the Order of St John is at this time, it's such a wealthy order, and I think it's a very special place. I think we'll have a look in the next episodes at some more history, but again, just looking at the expansion of London here, but how even though London didn't grow for a very long time, Clerkenwell was still you can see it's a very important part. This is when we're getting to the point where you had the dissolution of the Catholic Church, and they kicked out the so in 1536, pretty much where we are coming to now, that's the end of the Order of St John. So they got kicked out. There's dissolution. I think they at one point blew up part of the church in Clerkenwell. So that's that was the end of that chapter. But then, I mean, just looking at London generally, I mean, we're coming to 1600s, and very soon you're going to have the plague, where they're saying like 9 out of 10 people who got the plague died. So it was absolutely astronomical how many people, if you got the plague, it's death sentence. And then the next year you had the fire of London. So it's incredible, in a couple of years' time we're going to see, you've got the fire of London. But surprisingly, straight afterwards, you'd imagine there'd be huge expansion outside of the city, but there wasn't. Clerkenwell still, pretty much like the vanguard of North London, and coming up even into the 1700s. So it's very interesting how long Clerkenwell has been there, and then looking how the expanse of London very quickly in the 1700s, from late Georgian times, starts spreading. Still haven't got into Camden yet. Islington, I think these are still villages, but pretty much at the turn of the 1800s, then people are starting to commute from these areas into London to work. So at this point we're getting much more of the modern London.
There was that, and also by then, as I got older, my mother worked for Mrs. Bramwell in the Crown, and so I got a job cleaning the silver. Don't think I ever saw the money. I just got threepence a week from my parents, 3 pennies just. But you could buy a lot with threepence,
Didn't she give you some advice as well?
Mrs. Bramwell, yes, she was fantastic, because I'd know, don't forget, we're living in, although I'd been into the pub, because you were allowed to open the door, and my parents, she'd has got these photos, Justin, of going off on a Beano. A Beano is when they all to the coach.
Yes, everyone chips in.
Photographs. You got me in my mother's big. I was 11, I think. Maybe I was 11. Wasn't 13. I think it was 11. Got my big jacket on like this. Got my ankle. Short. Short trousers up. 3/4 up the back. Okay, darling.
I might see you anyway. Cause
no, that's
okay.
right. Just go for a quick drink.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, have a good one, mate.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. So Mrs. Bramwell, where the rooms upstairs, Justin, was huge, and she had a wall to wall, so maybe the length of this room, Justin, and it was full of fur coats. There were pink ones. There was silver. I mean, we're talking real furs and everything. And Mrs. Bramwell used to be a ballet dancer. And when she married Dr. Bramwell, she became the hostess. So she acted as almost like the hostess. So if you go into the Crown, when you come in the door, there's one of the bar, not the bars that side, which is near where near where the horse's trough is, and not that bar, but always had the bar there. And she'd sit there and act as the hostess.
Right.
So lots of wealthy customers used to come in during the daytime, not in the night. But the famous ones that used to come in, they would sit with Mrs. Bramwell. Would always sit at the bar, Justin. They'd always buy her a drink, chat with her, and a lot of consultants or surgeons from Berks used to come in.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, there was me cleaning, doing my cleaning job, the silver, polishing the silver and using the, you had to really polish them up. And she said, and I don't know how it came about, but she said to me, "My dear, I have only one piece of advice to give you. Never marry a poor man." That was it.
Yes,
and of course it was very regal, Justin, because as I say, a vintage Rolls Royce used to sit outside.
Yes,
I always remember the poodle. It was a full-size poodle. And I always remember it being light, but Sheila said, "No, I knew it was black." I said, "No." She said, "Anna, it's called Satan." The poodle was called Satan. It was a jet black poodle. And Dr. Bramwell, so you've got this tiny little man. He wasn't. I think he was
midget,
well, he was roughly a very small man. So don't forget, in those days, a lot of men were about 5'6", Justin. It was quite common. For men not to be. And don't forget, the diets for a lot of people were very poor. They, they didn't have lots of money. So people weren't very
this guy was wealthy, is that Doctor?
Yeah, he was wealthy. He was obviously very wealthy. Dr. Bramwell, he wasn't very tall, completely bald, Justin. His handlebar moustache was bright ginger.
Right,
it was really like that. And when you saw Dr. Bramwell arriving, he'd been out or whatever, you'd be in the street playing, because we always played on the green, on the hill. All you'd see was this little round head with this great big moustache with the will. I think you had to have. And in the back always was Satan, the dog.
The dog, right.
Yes. Oh yes. And then when they went out, Justin. But I should find it. You can find it in the archives. I think it was Evening Standard. The Duchess of Clerkenwell.
Right,
do you remember I said they did an article on her? But my mother, she went to work and she did the cooking. She did the lunches and everything, and it really helped my mum's cooking. It really, and it broadened her out as well.
Yes, well, that's really good, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, your grandmother, she never got really into any, except with all the girls and all the when they were at the house or that. But when she was in a social situation, so she had to go into more and more social situations, because my dad then was going for dinners, Justin. With the boss here, there'd be
really?
Yes, so say for instance the Christmas dinner, and because my father was then a manager or in charge of whatever section, you'd be invited. Your mother would be invited. The wives, all the wives were there. And everyone adored my mother.
Right.
All the men really liked her because all she did was smile. And if they made a joke, she'd laugh.
Yes.
And they'd all say, "Oh, Joe, you've got a one." Never, because I suppose it was that attitude as well. A lot of women were like that. They were like.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. And my father, in the beginning, used to wear.
But it's always a mistake, isn't it, Mum? If you're going out with the bosses. With all the bosses, your husband's bosses, and all you're doing is talking all night, then you've got to be careful, don't you? So
of course, yes, but my father really at the beginning used to say to me, because I was very close with my dad, and Sheila was as she grew up as well, and we still go out and I'd go for walks on Sundays, and I told you he'd take me to Speaker's Corner.
Yes, no, that's right.
On a Sunday morning we get the bus up to there and go to Speaker's Corner to speak so they'd all be ranting on the soapboxes, Justin. And we'd go to Trafalgar Square as well, especially if there was a rally.
Right.
My dad would take me there. But he was very worried about how my mother would. He wasn't worried so much about them, but how my mother would deal with it. And he said, "Darling," your mother, all she does is she smiles at them. She smiles. They all think she's absolutely lovely and adorable, and what a lovely wife you have, Joe.
Yeah.
And she went to quite important big dinners and everything like that. Always.
Well, I think this is the thing, isn't it? Because in the past. It's the same with the football players, isn't it? Like in the past, you'd actually be able to see the football players and go to the pub with them.
Yes.
And the same with now the bosses, they say sort of, the idea of going out for dinner.
yeah.
on a regular basis.
Well,
it's a different world, isn't it?
Yes,
Really?
well, talking about the football, we were talking, I forget who we were talking with or something like that. Well, we were having a conversation, and I was saying about how when we first moved here, Justin, at certain times when I'd be going down Highbury Fields, walking down to go to because by the time we moved here in the they'd built the Highbury and Islington. So we were very lucky, because they'd only just built the Victoria line.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure. I think we were saying we weren't sure if it had been built when we arrived, but it had been.
It had been just. I think they just built. And you used to see these really muscular blokes doing their all their laps. That's where they used to often train around Highbury Fields.
Right,
If you think about an Arsenal player now, when you look at the place they do have.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
so it was. And I suppose, Justin, because there were such a mixture in Clerkenwell, as I say, I've always what we always refer to as the Bohemian House on the corner opposite the Crown.
Yes.
All those students were at. I don't think they were London School of Economics. I think they were all at University College London. I think they were all students there. There was a group of them that lived in the house, and they always used to come into the pub in the evening, not every day, but they'd been there quite regularly. Because at one stage my father went to work behind the bar as well too.
All right.
So so it's it's a social thing, just. Of course you can have a bit, but never drinking hard or anything like that. So my mother worked in the day, doing the cooking, and Granddad worked. We'd come home from work, and a few nights a week he'd work behind the bar, and these were in their, I don't know, beginning of 20s, 21, 20. They all spoke French. They never spoke English. They all sat there. So that's how, and then they never told us how they got to. But after the Second World War, there were lots of places where they put up the notice: no Irish, no dogs, no Irish, no gypsies, or it could have been Irish, no gypsies, no Irish, no dogs.
There was no blacks, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs.
That was afterwards.
Yes,
yeah. When the immigration, when they said please come to Britain, you're British citizens, and they were all on the buses, Justin. They
London Transport.
London Transport, yeah. So maybe for Irish people, both my parents still had, obviously. Even Grandad, he still had an Irish accent, Justin. Obviously not as strong. But
I think they both did, didn't they?
Yes.
But it's obviously light, but I remember as a kid, I'm sure they did.
Yeah. So in Clerkenwell at that time, when I was little, you still had gas lights, street lights. That when they came around on their bicycle.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, came around on their bicycle with their big thing. You only think of it like from Mary Poppins, or he's got or the chimney sweeps or that. But they did. Yeah, they had that. And then I don't know if electricity came in the 50s. Justin must have been. Then they got electric lights, so we didn't have that. But we still had to get the coal.
Yeah, or you did.
Yeah. But one of the things that I don't know where I got it from, Justin, because it didn't last very long in life. As I was growing up, I used to get up at 5 a.m. with my dad.
Yes. Oh, with your dad? I thought you were the first one to have to get up.
No. My dad would be up at 5 because he was still fixed. He'd have to go off to get the first train out from Farringdon or wherever we were getting to. And my father always swallowed a whole egg, Justin.
Right, yes.
So I then learned how to swallow a whole egg.
Right.
Because it gave you instant energy.
Well, it's protein, isn't it?
Yes, pure protein. So, obviously when he gets out, they go to the local cafe or whatever they get. But first thing in the morning, he never had breakfast, always had the egg. So I learned how to do that. But I used to have to. I used to have to get up and put the fire.
Cold, yes, that's
tough.
Light the fire. Yeah, it must be very cold and dark and. Very tough one.
Yeah, and of course, and because, we're talking about one of the things that the loss of the habitat for insects and birds and everything, Justin. One of the things in Clerkenwell, overlooking the park and that, at night time we get loads of moths in the summer.
Yeah, that's something you don't see.
You don't see, but moths that were big.
Yes, yeah.
And my mother was terrified of moths, or she was terrified of all insects, but especially the moths. Because that you feel that they're fluttering at you.
Yeah, well, that's it. They do freak.
But they. So she'd scream, I'd scream,
yes.
And then when my sister was a tiny child, she'd scream. So all of us be howling like in the corner, and my mother go, Joe, get up!
Yeah.
And my father, but and I've told you this lots of times. It was, I don't know again how old I was, Justin, but I just saw when this moth that my father had, with his, because it always had a rolled up, rolled up thing, and then when it fell on the ground, I saw all the glitter off of its wings, and I realised how beautiful they were because although I knew moths were in the night time and butterflies were in the daytime, moths always look like they've got much hairier bodies.
Yes,
and much bigger.
I think they are though.
Yes. So my mother, made us hysterical. About insects.
No, exactly. It's very difficult.
Yeah. And when you see that, so as I say, they had a very good social life there, Justin.
Yeah, very happy, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
The other guys because that's what you always imagine, that John Prescott, like him punching that guy, and he was just saying that, when he was, doing the job, it was a very physical. Everyone just.
Might have done.
Take swings.
Yes, never seemed to, Justin. As I say, it was all everything. I know it sounds really weird because you think about it. The people that like to party and like to have a drink and go out. Like so, you Seckford Street. So when you go through the park, you've got Seckford Street. Then that leads to the street that leads up to the Age. I always forget, But so there was people partying from there. And they were they were part of, I forget which crime family at that time.
Oh God, Richardson's or that?
No, I don't know which ones it was, darling. And she was one of my best friends. And do you know, it's funny, I've forgotten her name. Susan? No, it wasn't Susan. Oh God. But anyway, they were very beautiful. The women were very beautiful in the family. Again, very dark hair. Jet black hair, and I think the husbands had died in the war or something like that. So you had a lot of women and men, and obviously a lot of flirting would go on, and the drinking and that. But I never heard of any real violence.
No. But I was thinking, not on the street, because it sounds like I mean in his job, like dealing with working.
Never told.
Like
never
the steel
said.
fixers and the trades.
You had to be in charge, didn't you, darling? Because you've got all these.
Yes.
You've got a gang. Your gang. What they call the what's it gang?
No, that's it.
And he'd have 14 people working for him. And things
like that. I can imagine.
Yes.
That, like the industrial side of his life.
Yes.
Not
never told us much about that.
I think one of the stories I remember Grandad really enjoying telling you multiple times is the gay man at the pub, and he'd go on the toilet, and then he'd sort of
Joe.
You warmed up the toilet seat for me.
Oh, Joe, I know, that was I've forgotten about that one, Joe.
There's a real twinkle, a special twinkle in his eyes, so you could see everyone that's having a very nice.
Yes.
They'll got on very well. And,
that was it, and the only thing that was became a shock was when Bobby Sell. And because there was always a lot of the older boys and in the street, who ruled over us younger ones. Used to have to make us play doctors and nurses.
Oh dear.
Yeah, in the Bombroons.
Really?
Yes, nothing really, but there was that aspect. And I think Bobby was then about 15 or 16 or something, Justin. And I forget who he ran with, but anyway, the trial went to the Old Bailey, and he got off.
Right.
But the whispers were that he had been involved in the killing, but he wasn't accused of it or anything like that.
Well, he was accused, but he was
he was found not guilty.
Yes.
So but so there were and like as I say, pawning the around the Angel, that gang, that famous gang from there. He was one of
the Adams.
Yeah, were they the Adams? Darling, it might have been.
Maybe that was later then, but I think the Adams.
So if Pauline married him, it's before we left Clerkenwell. So I was 19 when we left. So say she was going out with him when she was 17, 18, and got married to him.
I guess all the gangs are ever present in London,
yes,
and all the big cities, because there's just so little money, wasn't there? Most people had very little money.
Yes, and they were just accepted. Justin, I mean, people were careful because like they were all coming into the pubs and that. But because Pauline's father was a butcher in Smithfields.
Right. Yes.
In Smithfield Market, and they lived on Clerkenwell Road. They lived above a cafe, in Clerkenwell Road, and again. 3 rooms, Justin, toilet, but they had the toilet in, whereas in Clerkenwell we had to share the toilet downstairs.
Yeah, well, that's like close. Tough place,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yes, you're just the one. Yeah.
So we talk. I mean, what other jobs were there? So there's so of course, kind of still fixing. There's the people who like the gas lighters.
Yes. Yeah.
And that. What about did you have a lot of other jobs on there like? Rag and bone.
I suppose so. Yeah, but never really that noticeable. No. What was notable, Justin, was the TikTok man, Tic Tac man.
The Tic Tac man. Oh.
Yeah, when we came down the steps when we were with Katie, where she wanted to see where Charles Dickens wrote The Artful Dodger. Where that alley there. Well, the top of those steps was the Tic Tac man. Because gambling was illegal, Justin, unless you were at the races. So I used to have to take, because I was the eldest, and Brian was such a darling, he couldn't do anything, it's a girl's job, not a boy's. I used to have to take the laundry. So I'd carry the laundry to the laundrette in where I got my first job. So go up the steps, and that where Temple Press was, I forget the name of that street there.
Does that street go uphill?
No, it goes down to it goes slightly down to Farringdon Road, Justin.
Right,
so that goes down. Yes. So where we cut through, when we were at Exmouth Market, I think we walked down Farringdon Road, and then we turned left into, and then we came down the stairs there. So anyway, the Tic Tac man, Tic Tac, I think it's Tic Tac. He'd stand there, Justin, in the middle of the day or whatever, and they had lookouts. Because if the police, they'd all run for it. So they had lookouts at either end to make sure there was no bobby coming, because they were still called bobbies then. And he'd be standing there and he'd be doing all this, and he'd have all the men coming and paying their money over. And that was there for years, Justin. So I'd see them regularly because I was taking the laundry. So that in those days, Justin. So there was homosexual was illegal. You went to prison. Gambling was illegal. You go to prison for that. There was all these things. The only thing that drinking was absolutely fine.
Well, I think the pubs were shut, weren't they?
What, during the war?
No, on Sundays. I think they were.
No, the shops were closed, but the pubs weren't, Justin.
Well, how come the pubs were closed when I was at university then?
Oh well, I don't know. But no, the pubs were open.
No, I think they were. I think they were closed and open for lunch, and then they closed again.
Oh yes, they did. They weren't open all day, Justin.
Yeah, so they opened, they closed.
They opened, and that's why. Again, I used to have to look after the dinner. So I always laugh with Adam, you see, because he likes his vegetables. They've just been flashed by water.
Right.
So as hard as a rock, you see. So if I'm sneaky enough, I inadvertently put them on for 2 or 3 minutes. And it's like, and they're much nicer, Jabba, in my opinion. But we laugh about it, about the amount of water. So at 2 o'clock, Justin, on a Sunday, when I was older now, so I was old enough to, look after the dinner. So I turned the roast potatoes and that. I would have to put the vegetables on. So your cauliflower, your broccoli. We never had broccoli in those days. Brussels sprouts. Always had Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and that. And so you get a big. My mother put them in a big pot of water, Justin, like this, and they went on I had to put everything on at 2:00.
Right. So
you turned on the vegetables and the mashed potatoes as well, because we had roast potatoes and mashed potatoes. So I turn on the potatoes at 2:00 and the vegetables, and then when they boiled, I put the lid on the for the mashed potatoes, for the boiled potatoes, and then I put on the lid for the vegetables. Yeah. So Justin, those vegetables used to cook for at least 40 minutes, because they'd come. Because again, that expression afters.
Yes.
Both the Crown, all the pubs did it only for their regulars there, so they don't often do that. But on a Sunday, they basically got everyone out of the pub, because 2:00 it closed. The last orders, they always rang the last orders and everything, but a lot of people would get a few beers, and they'd last them till 1:30, you know. And so by the time my mother came in, Justin, and we always had OXO, we always had gravy. My mother used to pour all the water out from the vegetables, put on the kettle, and use that for the OXO.
Well, yes.
So any goodness, Justin, that was in after 14 minutes being boiled in this. And so Adam, I say, well, we could put them in for 20, 14 minutes, Adam, and then pour the water away.
Yes, yeah. No,
so any goodness in these vegetables, Justin.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Sort of people not thinking around.
Well, no, because then if we had enough money, if we got.
We've done very well. We've done an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll just finish this off then, Justin.
And then we could do like a bit of later time, isn't it? Like teenagers and and then we come back and do some more.
Yeah. So so clarify that. What
so we're saying about on the Sundays and the
all the vegetables and everything. So what would happen? The Crown was a very good place because people from Smithfield and everything, and my parents had contacts. Well, all the people did. So whenever we could, Justin, we had smoked salmon for tea.
Right, yes.
Because it cost a quarter. It's obviously a wink and a nod.
Yes.
They'd obviously stolen it, Justin, and my father might have given, I don't know how much he gave. If you think of a whole, and it was a whole, of smoked salmon.
Yes.
So, so in those days, people would come to the pub and buy stuff.
Yeah.
If you wanted biscuits, this is really early on, you'd go to Exmouth Street Market, and they only sold biscuits in big sacks. But a lot of them were broken.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, because it was, what's the name, wasn't it? You had to have your card, didn't you, to get...
Yes, that was the rationing, yes. Because I was born for the first, 5 years of my life, or whatever, it was rationing. But we did eat well, Justin, and...
I thought it was up until the late 50s one.
It might be, darling. I
think it was
have no idea.
Because the rest of Europe, there was no rationing, it was only us.
Yes.
It was the last one that's outrageous.
Well, because we took the money that we,
Well, it's the Americans, isn't it? The Americans wanted to...
Yeah, they wiped off the Europe's debt. The British, we were still paying right up until the 70s, 80s, paying back for the
early 90s.
War. So you had that, and then at Christmas time, Justin, my father would go to Smithfield Market and buy his turkey. Because they so they were selling it at like 10, 11 o'clock at night time. That's when you went to get your turkey for Christmas. Because we lived just by, the back of Smithfields. Clerkenwell was just the back of Smithfields.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? It's such a sort of fundamental thing, isn't it? To get access to all the sort of that food. And
that's right. So we did eat well, Justin. Always ate well. And so basically the children all played out all day long. Come rain or shine, you're just out. I'll call you in for lunch. My mother used to just throw, as I said to you, throw open the bedroom window, because their bedroom window was at the front of the house.
Yes.
And
expected.
In for lunch, yes. Well, you knew roughly around lunchtime, so you knew that you had to stay sort of in the area. Yeah. So we had that. Then as soon as lunch was over, you were out. And then you were called in for this is in the holidays, obviously. Our greatest fun was going on the book and skate down the hill.
Yes.
I mean, it's brilliant. You know, the annuals, Justin. At least we got an annual once a year. You know, the Beano or whatever.
Fit your bottom.
They're on your skate. They sat there, and no one seemed to find it very odd, except my father, when he didn't realise that that's what we were doing. He said he nearly had a heart attack. When he came seeing us going down the hill, and all you did, Justin, you just swerved, because you kept your feet straight. All you did is lean to the right. Because you've got Clerkenwell there, and Karl Marx Library is also on the hill. So the Karl Marx Library is on on the hill, Clerkenwell. So that's what, and you play in the Bomb Ruins, or you went up to the swings, which were really good, Justin, up at just before Exmouth Street Market, the park there.
Okay.
They have swings.
Are they still there, or?
They are still there, but they've really modernised it.
Yeah,
Justin.
of course. Well,
yes, it's and also just so we go to the swings regularly, so I would have to look after my brother, and then when Sheila got, I have to take my sister.
It's a rigmarole, isn't it?
Well, it is, and then you've got to look up, make sure she's safe.
Yes.
But you could go on them. Same for you, Justin. When you went to the swings, there was none of this. Now you can't even go fast. You used to be able to go like 100 miles an hour and jump off. Now you can't do anything like that. So that was basically, what the entertainment was for the children. And so we went out regularly.
Happy times one.
We went and when we were feeling very posh, we go down to Leicester Square to Joe Lyons.
Oh, really?
My mother. Oh yes, we always went to the corner house, Justin, for afternoon tea. Only in the summertime. So it was either when it was either we go to Parliament Hill for picnics. Or we go not every week, Justin, but a regular thing, and go to Joe Lyons, because Joe Lyons was a big thing then. It was on the corner of Leicester Square. We go there and have tea.
That's very nice.
Well, because my mother then worked for Mrs. Bramwell, you see, so my mother obviously got above her station, Justin.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you can imagine when Mrs. Bramwell said, "My dear," because she spoke like she was very, very
commanding,
very commanding. Yes. She obviously, she got my mother put lots of ideas into.
That's good, though, isn't it?
Yes,
very good.
It was outside of anyone that.
No, it's a very
my mother was brought up, had no education, Justin. Was made to just be basically the skivvy at home. For her 7 brothers.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When you escape that, and then you're in a
yes, I mean she was. My grandmother was the linchpin of the family. Yeah. Sorry, my grandmother, and then my mother became the linchpin. But once my grandmother died, and then everyone sort of drifted away. But that's why she was always called Babe. Right. That was her name, Babe.
Why is she called Babe, though?
Darling, I have no idea, but she was never called Mary. It was Babe, always Babe. Yeah. Maybe because she was a girl. She was the only girl, Justin.
Right, yes.
But my grandmother had 14 children. 7 died, but that was very common. Some grandmothers had 21 children, Justin, and most of those, a lot of them died. Yeah, because.
But no, that's it. No, it's very interesting, isn't it? But, Babe.
Yeah. So as I say, very, very interesting characters that ran the pubs and their story, and there were ones that and even the ones before at the Crown, I never knew their story, Justin, but they were interesting people as well.
It's important, isn't it? You don't have to know everything about someone. You can actually live in a community and
yes. Well, you only told by your parents. We didn't know. Yeah.
And hopefully have a little bit of privacy that you can go out and
but
spend
of course,
time with people.
What do people talk about? There's no television, Justin. There was no television. People didn't have. We had the radio.
But it doesn't mean that everyone's just gossiping, are they? I mean, they're singing. Yes, sort of.
Yes, yeah.
No, but it's very interesting, Mum. It was in about 1144 that Jordan de Briquet, the Norman lords of Clerkenwell Manor, founded the nunnery of St Mary, a house of Augustinian canonesses shortly after the adjacent Hospitaller Priory of St John. The home of the Priory of St John and the site of a number of wells and spas, including Sadler's Wells and Spa Green, and of course including Clerkenwell, which the well was then rediscovered in 1924. Meant it was must have been a lovely area just outside of the city. And again, joining the priory was St Mary's Nunnery and the Benedictine Order and monasteries. So they were all in the same areas, Priory of St John and St Mary's Nunnery. And because of the religious orders there, they had mystery plays and miracle plays. They're among the earliest formally developed plays in medieval Europe. So medieval plays focused on the representation of the Bible stories, and told stories about things like the creation, Adam and Eve. So people would have come out to see those. The first documented reference to the Crown pub was in 1641, and it seems that it's always been called the Crown. The site of the tavern would have been next to the ancient gatehouse, which would have still been there in the 1700s, the gatehouse of the old nunnery. And the present house where my mum grew up in the late 1940s would have been part of that, the old great gatehouse that was part of the nunnery site. And the Crown pub in its present form was built in 1815. So Clerkenwell only really became a part of London in the 1700s, when the Penton estates were laid out as good quality housing for the growing middle class who were willing to commute into the city of London. I was just reading another very good book about the the Fields Beneath, which is about the history of Kentish Town, and very very similar there. That was in the mid 1700s. People actually started commuting from Kentish Town all the way down to the City of London. So in Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist, Clerkenwell Green is where Fagin and the Artful Dodger induct Oliver into pickpocketing amongst the shoppers in the busy market that was in Clerkenwell Green. So it became quite a tough area, but the area, it became notorious for poverty and squalor, and I think all along, just at the bottom there, that you would have had the Fleet River still flowing down. But then when they built the Farringdon train station, that was built in 1863, and they cleared out a lot of the slum areas along the Fleet River for the station that was built on top of it. So they demolished a lot of the shanty towns that were along there. Clerkenwell Close became a centre for the clock and watch trades, sort of mostly in small workshops. So they'd each be doing a different aspect of the production. So a complete clock factory run by John Moore and Sons was set up in the late 1700s. And wonderfully, there was a chiming clock with a 9-foot dial that was made for Lima Cathedral in Peru. And that was in 1819. So that was made Clerkenwell and then shipped off to Peru. I think that cathedral has been there since the early 1600s as well. There was no factory in the locality until about 1878, and by the early 19th century, Clerkenwell became a major centre for clock and watchmakers, as mentioned, gold and silversmiths and printers, making it a major artisan centre in London. So although there was a real benefit in having that high concentration of trades, there were some, huge drawbacks. In 1799, Parliament imposed a watch tax, allowing cheaper imports from the continent. So cheaper imports from Europe. Instantly, 8,000 people from Clerkenwell. I've read they're called Clerkwellians. It's very nice. So 8,000 people from Clerkenwell were out of work. So soup kitchens were established in Coppice Row to feed the watchmakers and their families. They no longer had any jobs. And Clerkenwell, over that period, of course, and before, was associated with radicalism. An international, sort of support for other people and workers. So, associated with the Lollards in the 16th century, the Chartists in the 19th century, and the Communists in the 20th century. So, for example, in 1865, there's a big outcry about in Jamaica, 439 Jamaican squatters were hung. And they, in Clerkenwell Green, they burnt an effigy of the governor of Jamaica. People just felt, incensed about, these sort of international, atrocities that far away from home. In the same way, there's the, big Fenian movement, the Irish Republican organisations that were all over, like in Liverpool, London. There was I think 4 Fenians were going to be given the death sentence in Birmingham, and over 10,000 people demonstrated against it in Clerkenwell. The Speaker's cart was right outside the Sessions House, and in 1871 there was a big Paris Commune meeting in the square. In the on the green. So, and also they found in 1867 they 3 Americanized Irish Fenians tried to blow a wall in the Clerkenwell House of Detention, which was on the other side of St John's Church, in the opposite direction to the Crown and my mum's place. They tried to blow up a wall to, like cowboy style, American cowboy style, to try and free some imprisoned Fenians in there. And I think there was, a lot of the, people in the neighbouring buildings were killed in the attempt. And then they also found under the Church of St James's flooring, they found a Fenian arms cache of 400 rifles, 25 cases of revolvers, 5 barrels of ammunition, and 100,000 rounds inside the Church of St James. So, so obviously there's a lot of the Irish Fenians felt, that they were very present in the area. I always found it very interesting as well. There was an Indian man called Dadabhai Naoroji, I think, he's called, and he was known as the Grand Old Man of India and the unofficial ambassador of India. And he was an Indian independence activist and businessman and scholar and writer, and he was very involved. He was one of the founding members of the Indian National Congress. He was its president lots of times, and then he moved to England, and he became a Liberal Party member of Parliament. So and he actually won his seats. He represented Finsbury Central, which Clerkenwell was part of, between 1892 and 1895. So that's it's fantastic. I think he was the second Indian. I think the first one was an Anglo-Indian member. So, but fascinating. And of course, Lenin, Stalin, and Karl Marx, they frequented the areas. In these areas, and the Marx Memorial Library was founded in the same site in 1933. So, fascinating area. I think after the Second World War, Clerkenwell suffered from industrial decline, and so many of the premises occupied by the engineering and printing and publishing businesses moved out. But even today, it's still a place where people will. It's one of the points for along the road when people go demonstrating. So.
Yeah.
So what would you say, like having grandkids, and obviously this is for the grandkids, isn't it, really?
Of course, yes.
How would you compare your experience of growing up with their experience now? I mean, what would you say are some of the things that they're missing out on, or that?
It's very difficult because so many people who are older. Or even not just my age, even your age and Adam's age. I know you've discussed how different it was, when you were younger, but we lived an outdoor life, and in the winter time, if it wasn't raining, you were still sent out to play.
You were about to say thrown out.
Well, it was just like, right, you had your breakfast. No, but the thing is that. I had which will relate to it now, was having a conversation with Sheila on Tuesday when we were at the French in Islington after swimming, and Sheila said, it's so funny how the difference with the children, and this is relating to what you're talking about. It's 11-year-old, right? 11, 12-year-old. When we lived in Clerkenwell, Sheila got into a school near Euston Station. We're living in Clerkenwell, which is Farringdon Road. Now, at the age of 11, when Sheila got into the school, it was like, right, off to school. So Sheila would leave the house, walk down to Farringdon Road, get on the train, and go to school. And then on her first day, not even. I don't know if I took her. I might have taken her. I can't remember, but maybe, I probably did because I was that much older. So there was no idea that my parents, or my mother, I mean, would take my sister to school. So she's 11-year-old going across Farringdon Road, which is a main road, going to the station and getting off at Euston. To go to her new school at the age of 11. So that's just one aspect of the difference. And also when we were younger,
so is that enforced independence?
Well, I say enforced. It was just natural. It's what most parents did. Even though my mother at that time, although she used to have a little job working for Mrs. Bramble, in the Crown, but mostly she was the house, the housewife job, and most women were in those days. Most women did stay home.
So what about the weekend, then, Mum? So on a Saturday or Sunday when you're up, you have your breakfast, and then you're marched out the house.
Well, the thing is,
what would you do then?
What
would a typical day be?
A typical day.
What sort of activities you do when you're out?
We'll go out, maybe to the library in Finsbury, because that was always
used to go. Boring.
Oh no, I used to love the library. I used to go to the library all the time, spend hours in there. That's why Kindle, Justin. I spent hours on there. You've got 9 trillion books on Kindle that you can just look at. I used to go to the library, spend hours in the library. But a normal day, your friends, you meet up with your friends, and then Rosebery Avenue. You go up Rosebery Avenue, and to Exton Street Market. Sorry, before you get to roads, and there's the swings. There's the swing park. So you'd spend hours on the swings. And then if you didn't want to do that, we had the bomb site, which was just around the corner.
Right, yes.
And houses with narrow boards, and been, you know, although they were bombed and they were shells, they still had all the rooms. They still had the rooms and everything like that.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So you and also with Aria's age, it would be the same. Favourite was having a book and skate.
Right, yes.
So you'd have your you know, I mean, because we never got hardly any. We never got we got one present, you know,
right,
one for birthday and one for Christmas, you know. And the classic. The difference between the children and mine now is the 999,000 presents the children get, and just discard the paper and just look, next, not any, no interest, not even, oh, thank you, who's this from? Oh, this is, no.
Don't even bother her.
No. So at Christmas you'd get one present, but probably a good one, you know, like a doll's house, and then your auntie would send you a book that you never really liked, like The Little Mermaid or something. You know, so that was the thing. Relatives would send a book to the children, but I was an avid reader, so I read all the time. So and so you'd get one present, and then and you'd get a stocking, and you'd have an orange in it.
Well, that was a luxury though, wasn't it? Yes. Post-war, you know.
Yes, you'd have an orange, and it was a proper stocking.
Right,
you know, one of my mother's stockings, not all these, you know, get it on Amazon or wherever, you know, or the big one, you know, absolutely packed with sweets, because no sweets.
No.
You know, never any sweets. So
was this still rationing then? Would you say that?
Yeah, not when I was Aria's age.
So
when
I was 11.
Yeah, I think I was 5. I was born 46, so rationing finished, I think, was it 53? 54, I can't remember.
Later than Germany, Italy, then all the people who started the war, you know, we won the war, lost the peace.
Well, the Americans gave them all the money, didn't they?
Yes.
But they made us pay every single penny back right up until the 90s or something. We were still owing them.
So once you get an orange, there'll be no sweets.
And also one of the you know, walnut.
A walnut, in it. Me and Edmund used to have those, didn't we?
Yes, the stockings and that. And what else? There are a few things because you know, because of. This is a little bit, because this is my brother as well. My brother's been born, and because he's only 18, he was only 18 months younger than me, but she was 7 years afterwards. So you know, there's lots. But by the time she came, rationing had ended. Yeah. So like the difference again between the children now and myself is that when as soon as I got old enough, I had to do I had to do the shopping.
We had a lot of responsibilities, didn't we, when you were kids?
Yes. So, I mean, my mother, I used to go with my mother to Exton Street Market with her, you know, when I was very little. And because it was after the war, you couldn't get biscuits in a packet, but you could get, they used to have sacks of broken biscuits.
Broken biscuits, yeah.
So they'd have a shovel in there, and they'd get the shovel, and you'd buy them in the paper bag. They would buy that. But when I was younger, I really liked cheese. Always liked cheese. So was
that available then, or was that rationed?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was. Yes, it
more
was.
Accessible then.
But, well, no. The thing is that the like the equivalent of, I suppose you would say, a delicatessen. You know, they sold everything near enough, not household goods or that, but you know, all type of food. Yeah. I always got a lump of cheese from the owner, you know, that worked there, because he knew I liked cheese. So he never said, "Do you want a bit?" I never wanted a biscuit or anything. I always wanted a piece of cheese. I said, "Oh, could I have a piece of cheese?" So Mark, if my mother needed anything, my mum would say, "Anne, go to Exton Market and buy this and that," and then.
So you'd have to go on your own then, or?
Oh God, yes, and also even younger than that, I used to have to go and get the coal.
Yes, now this is a big thing, isn't it?
Yes,
so in the house there's no central heating.
No central. I had a small fire, only in one little room, so I used to have to go and get the coal.
This is like it's black and
early. and make the fire.
I mean, obviously they had electric lights though, didn't they? But
No,
you could turn the lights on.
No.
You didn't have electric lights?
No, not in the beginning. No, of course not.
Wow.
There wasn't even street lighting. You had the man who came round.
Well, it's still gas lighting, was it?
Yeah, he used to come round on his bicycle.
1940s?
Yeah, just after the Second
Isn't
World
that
War.
funny? I thought that by then it had to.
But soon after that, Justin, technology in that sense became much faster.
No, I'm very surprised.
Because we were accepted, obviously, for all the the wealthy owners in the pubs and who owned the pubs and everything.
Yes.
They had things like telephones, but no houses did. But we were the first ones in Clerkenwell to get a telephone.
This is like central London as well, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like you're not out in the countryside.
But this is Justin. This is after the Second World War. People were living in 3 rooms.
Yes, yeah. What's that now, Mum?
Yes, we're going back. Well, we are all living in 3 rooms. Well, yeah.
But no, exactly. Yeah.
It is that, but
the quality of life was like much.
Yeah, and everything was outside because you lived.
The toilets were outside, weren't they?
We shared a toilet in the house. There was a shared toilet downstairs, but to go and you had like your tin bath. So you had your tin bath, and
so you were lucky then if you were the oldest because you'd have it like what, third. You'd have them.
Oh yes, yeah. But then Brian was. Don't forget, he was only 18 months, so he was quite fast after me. So before you get any realization of like yourself or your own space, he was there behind me. But yeah, the difference is.
You have a bath together, you mean?
Oh yes, yeah. But
obviously, I suppose you had a.
Or my mother would put Brian in the sink. Because our front room. Well, we only had 3 rooms, so the big room at the back or at the front in the street, whereas our front room overlooked the garden. So if you think about it, we overlooked St James's Park. That's our little park there. The whole of the summer. If unless it was raining or that whole window, so we were sitting there having our tea or our dinner or our breakfast. We sat and looked over the park the whole time.
Right, yeah.
So it was really yes, we had that view. It wasn't like we had a window but looked out onto another house. At the back we did. But my bedroom my bed was always by the window. So.
Did you guys go to church on Sunday?
Yeah,
the big church there.
Yes. Well,
you never talk about this, but
my parents, because they wouldn't allow us to go to any Catholic school.
No.
But they wanted to get you out of the house on Sunday afternoon, because parents always wanted to have a rest on the Sunday afternoon after a hard week working and all that. So we were made to go to Sunday school.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I don't remember you talking about Sunday school before.
No, we went to Sunday school, which was right next door.
Yes, so obviously you've got the big church right there.
Yeah. Oh God! Every Sunday morning, Justin, the bells. The bells. What's that classic line? The bells. Is it there? Notre Dame? Yeah. And the bells were really loud, Justin.
Yeah. Well, you're right next door.
We're right next door to it. Yeah. So so we'd have to go there. So I decided, they encourage you to go to the Brownies, the Brownies and the Boy Scouts and the Girl Guides. Yeah. So I said to my parents, I really, really wanted to become a Brownie. And my parents, no. And they bought me a uniform and lasted 1 day.
Oh, really?
I hated it.
You hated it, right.
Yeah, it was like, because you couldn't just join and see if you liked it. You had to become a Brownie, So although my parents weren't generous in, like in clothes or anything like that, they actually did buy me. And then when I decided I wanted to be a Girl Guide, it was like, nope. So the life of the children, Justin. I mean, even in comparison to you, it's just so different. Because
my experience, I think, is more similar to yours.
Yes.
Because like in the 70s, very little. Yeah. Very little to do or have, whereas now it's just. Yeah.
Well, when you were younger, when you were little, though, we used to go down to Covent Garden because we could they had that fantastic American shop, and children. Were very, they were treated very, very differently, and there was always lots of love and stuff like that. But you had chores. Although in the house, my mother, always spent years trying to get me to clean my bedroom, and I never did.
Oh, really? God, yeah.
hated any housework, whereas my mother was housewife. So so when you're younger, like as I said, when I was really quite young, I used to have to get up at 6 in the morning and make the fire. My father had already gone off to work, you see, and then my mother and I'd make the fire, and you wanted to, because you wanted to get up with your dad.
Right, yeah.
It's the only time in my life I ever... and I learned how to eat, swallow raw eggs.
Right, yes.
Because my father would get up at 5 or something like that. And so it's before coffee, Justin. No one had coffee. Everyone drank tea. I mean, amongst the lower middle classes. Maybe if you're obviously if you're a higher middle class, you had coffee. But none of that was available for most people. And you just had when I did introduce coffee, I'm jumping a bit now, saying difference. When I introduced coffee to my parents to the home, it was instant coffee. You drank instant coffee. So the difference between what Aria, Max and Charlotte experience is nothing. They
do you think they're missing? Do you think, like, just the relationship-wise, do you think they're missing something now? Like, they don't have... Because it's all about me. It's all...
No, I think the children... No, because, I mean, the children that in our family are very lucky because... their parent, like you, the time that's given to Charlotte, the time that's spent with her, the activities she has, the same with Max and Dari. I mean, the stuff that Adam, takes them to. It spends money, so they're getting.
The expectations are so much higher, aren't they? I mean, like in your day, you weren't given it, and you didn't.
But we exercised all the time because we were always out, Justin. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like the idea of...
but that adventure isn't there now, is it?
There's no adventure. Because, and it's all this terror of children, and obviously because...
Yeah, it's the parents, and it's my fault, and...
Yeah, but it isn't just that. We live in an age of oh my God, what happened in the borough down in, say, at the Angel, and you hear about mugging or a shooting, or you hear about, someone being attacked. But that all this sort of thing happened, but but no one knew about it.
Yeah, or you just get on with it, don't you?
Yeah, well, you don't, because all you've got are the papers, Justin, and radio and the BBC.
Well, like, it's the same, like, because that was the time you still had capital punishment, so people could be hung for murder and get put in prison for being gay.
Oh God, yes. Censorship, Justin, at that age. I mean. The thing of there was, what was he called, the minister of not censorship, Justin.
Information or something.
No, some sort of pretentious sort of like the nation's morals type of thing. And Lady Chatler,
very powerful.
Oh God, yes. Every single thing had to pass the censor. He was a censor. All the films were censored, Justin. I mean, can you imagine all the films from the especially like the late 30s, 40s American ones, where you had all the strong women. So you'd see all these famous actresses. They were all femme fatales. So they'd all be wearing these skin tight, with bosoms hanging out, and you'd have a gun in the background, and almost like the Raymond Chandler character standing there with a cigarette in the background. But what it was that she was the temptress and the murderer. So even those type of films which were available, everything was innuendo. That's why everything had to be innuendo.
But as you said, I mean, the censorship and that, but people were aware. I mean, I just wanted to say about, like, Grandad saying about, like in the local pub, there was a gay guy in the pub. Everyone knew he was gay.
Yes.
This is illegal.
Yes.
If you wanted to get the police and have him arrested.
Yeah, but no one would.
No one would. And it was just that whole thing of, like, Grandad saying, he always loves repeating the story about, like, come out the toilet, and then the other guy come out afterwards giggling, saying, toilet felt so nice and warm, and and they won't have a laugh about
That's
it.
Right, so, because
so people do get on with
because
were aware of stuff and got on with it.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned in the first tape we did what I always called the Bohemian House, where what's the name lived. I think I mentioned him.
Yes.
Quinton Crisp.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And
we did the Queen's speech, didn't he, like on Channel 4 for about 10 years or something, or a few years.
Yes,
It lasted until...
Yeah, no, well, that's what Sting's song is about. Is I'm an Englishman in New York is him, you know. Yeah. And he
was a local character then.
Oh, yes, for a while. But as I say, all the house was the house of students, you know, on that corner
the French.
of the hill, just opposite. Yeah, and they only spoke French in the pub, which was hilarious. Yeah. You know, but then that was the makeup of a city, you know, a big city like London, and that would have been everywhere, Justin. All the people coming back from the war, people displaced, you know. The war. What happens when people come back from the war? All of a sudden, everyone gets pregnant, and you know, everyone's looking to live somewhere. And people are mixing together that have never.
Well, they've had those experiences abroad together as well, haven't they? Like different classes and that, just like like brothers, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I suppose they said like you had to go to school. Well, she had to go to school on her own, and that. And
I had to do the shopping. Had to go into the laundry.
Yes.
Going on.
What about
because Clerkenwell, as you know, was all artisan, all silversmiths and everything around there. You know, all the houses right round the green, and then you've got the quarter inns of court, isn't it?
Yes, I'd like to go down there with you, Mum.
Yes, because they used to hold prisoners. I think up until the 20th century, Justin.
Did they?
Yeah, they used to put, but they didn't. I think
is there a tour there or something?
There might be. There might be. They don't have. They don't have that anymore. But when we were there, I don't think it was a functioning court. I'm not sure. I should look it up. I never even.
I thought that whole area. I thought that was like the Order of St John's.
Yes. St John's, because round at the back where you go to when you cross over Farringdon Road, and then you go to the big arch that was where you went through into the City of London, the original. That's where St John's Ambulance was there as well. So they're headquarters.
They're just like the Templar Knights. They're Crusaders.
Yes, they came from them. Yeah, that's that's where that's why they've got the big red. You know, that's the Red Cross thing.
Yeah, no, fascinating.
Yeah, so
I saw a documentary on them a couple of weeks ago, Mum. That's really keen. It's free to get into as well.
Yeah, so they were just round over the back of Clerkenwell Green, Clerkenwell Close, and then over the back you go down the alley, and then you cross. You know, Farringdon Road that goes then on to Old Street, and there's you go through to there.
Yeah, well, go next week, Mum. If you're free.
We could do, darling. Yeah,
I'd love to go. Nice.
Go.
And then obviously go and have a look.
Yeah. So all the things there.
Sorry, Mum. Yeah, because
the one when I did get really told off for, and Sheila remembers this, is I think I've told you this story, is Guy Fawkes.
Right.
The guy. So when you're children, you don't have any money. You're given threepence a week, which I think is the equivalent of 1.5p or something like that. But you could buy at the end of the week. You could buy a bumper car and
there's enough value. in that.
Three pennies, Justin. You know, you could buy gobsmackers for like I don't know for half a p, or maybe 3 or 4 for half a penny or something, because they were in big jars and they'd hand them to you. That's how you buy them, like that. So, anyway, the only way children could make money was Guy Fawkes night.
Yes.
So, my sister, because having to take her out everywhere when you get to an age, that's it. You've got to take your sister with you. You know, 7 years younger. You know, you've got out with your friends, and you've got a poor girl. You know, she was only probably about, I don't know how old she was when I was made to take her.
Little brothers, sisters are in the bum, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know?
So anyway, it's Guy Fawkes night, and we're going down to Farringdon. So that's where you make your money, at Farringdon Overground, you know, the railway station, because people are coming off.
Yeah.
So anyway, I dressed my sister up as Guy Fawkes.
Yes.
And so I don't know what I did with her face, and I put her in old baggy. I mean, she was in the pram as the guy.
Yes.
And we're like, penny for the guy, because that's what you always used to do. Penny for the guy, penny for the guy. So it's my brother and I with me, and my father gets off the train, and he sees us standing there with my sister all dressed up. I got into so much trouble, and the reason
it's the fear, isn't it?
It actually did happen, Justin. But with Sheila there.
Yes.
Don't say anything, keep still.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, that was me and Adam as well. We had to have a sort of place with the guy.
Yeah.
And no one was giving us money, and some guy had his dog, and his dog pees on it. And the guy had to give us some money because, Luckily, I didn't make Adam dress up in it. But
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, you just everything that, like you say, the difference is huge because as long as you had, which some children didn't, and like any time, it's all where where there was a disinterest in their children, because you could then just say, right, go out and play. And that's it. You didn't have to go to do anything else. But with my parents, I mean, every weekend we went out. My father took me out every Sunday morning while my mother got the after we had breakfast. And as I say, he used to take me to Speaker's Corner. We'd go down to Trafalgar Square.
Wasn't it?
Always take me out, and then and never really took my brother out, because I don't think my brother was that interested. It's a little, my mother was like, oh no, Brian, stay with me. There was all this. Well, he's a boy, because she was brought up looking after 7 brothers. She was just a maid. She not maid, but just another. Like her mother. I mean, she was made to leave school at 13.
Yeah, she was plucking chickens, wasn't she, Mum? She couldn't read or write.
No. So it's a very different thing. Whereas with my dad, and then when the weather was good, to be really posh, Justin, we'd go down to Leicester Square to Joe Lyon's corner house for tea. Yeah. So you go there and you have scones,
I think you mentioned
cream
that
and jam.
The last one.
Yes,
nice.
Now that was the thing that a lot of people did. They would go.
You went to Hampstead Heath as well.
We used to go to Parliament Hill a lot. We used to go there regularly as well. As soon as the weather became nice.
It's quite a long journey though, doesn't it? Because
it's the 214. You used to take
so
it straight
you could
there.
get because
in Farringdon, Justin, go straight down Farringdon Road.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're a child, you go on the buses all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Because some places just like were the back of the world, weren't they? When let's go to Greenwich, for example, from Tavistock Place, just seemed like it was a different town, really.
Yes,
now it's so easy.
Yeah, but you did that because when we jumped, which we said about going out to later going to clubs and all that. When I got to 16, I was going. Like as I said, I was going down getting the 63, because the 214, the 63, they all go down Farringdon, Justin. But the 63 used to take us to, God, where is that place? South London somewhere. Miles away.
Yes,
because they had a Lyceum,
a
Lyceum there. So you'd get the bus at 7. I think you got there at 8:30. Then you left because you had to get home for 10:30, 11. So, but at least you had about 2 hours on the dance floor.
Yes,
you go all the way to South London, and then I used to go to Tottenham. I used to walk up.
How old was it? Were you 16?
16. 16. 15, 16. No, I then that's going on afterwards. I was thinking about this. I thought about that afterwards, and I was thinking about this just now before you came. Actually, I can't remember why. I have no idea why, Justin. I discovered clubs, Bieber, because no one else around me was doing anything like that.
No, it's very interesting. Well, it's maybe just natural interest in design and clothes and good and standing out
clubs and everything. But
well, it's perfect, wasn't it?
It was the start of everything, Justin. You had every single famous British band, because even the ones, say, from the north or whatever, although the Beatles were the early 60s, there was still really nothing. I mean, most of the bands were. No, they were later. No, you're talking about the Yardbirds, the Pretty Things.
Small Faces?
No, they're later. You had Brian Aldridge, Trinity, who was Brian Aldridge, Long John Baldry, and Elton John, and Kiki Dee. So
obviously the Rolling Stones as well.
The Rolling Stones, they played at Eel Pie Island, and I think I said to you, so you'd go to all the different clubs. The one club I didn't really go to very much was the one on... it's just by Leicester Square, where all the jazz, where
near Frith Street, isn't it? I think.
No, that's where the freight train. What the Frith Street? That's Compton Street. No, this is Leicester Square, Justin. A very famous club where Simon, no, I used to go to the 100 Club. That's where the Yardbirds played.
Right, yes.
And the Pretty Things. And you'd go, and as I say, Brian Aldridge Trinity played at, we used to go to West Hampstead, so you get the train to West Hampstead, and then that was in like a big hall.
Right.
So this is for Elton John or any of them, kicking. They weren't known, they were just, a young band playing. And as I say,
what about Rod Stewart? Was that 80? Was that 70s?
Yeah.
Then? That was later.
No. Rod Stewart. Who did he?
Dad was saying to him, basically carrying the drums and that. For people,
I tell you who Rod Stewart was just I think that fraction later. The main bands they played in Soho, around that whole area, and then out, and that, like the Rolling Stone played Eel Pie Island.
Right.
They very rarely played inside, but they were a band there. And then when we went to the scene, it was what was it? The Animals.
Right. Okay.
So the scene was the Animals. So so you've got, like you say, the 100 Club was, but then during the week, the 100 Club also they had jazz there.
Right. But is this the time with the faces? The guys. Well, the people, the guys who dressed up.
Oh yes, Daniel knew some of those guys.
Yes, but they're not drug dealers though.
They were all very. No, some of them used to have.
Some of them were, but I thought it was like very much like Sting in Quadrophenia.
The faces. They all came. I think it was Pimlico. Victoria Pimlico, and they always were really super.
Yes.
Like at that time, I'm starting to go to Bieber and places like that. But these guys wore beautiful suits and everything, and it's the mod thing. Most of the people came down by train because. You're in central London. You're going to jump on your scooter, but I think that was a later thing.
Yeah. But because I remember you saying about like when you started working and you just get your pay packet and you spend like 90% of it on a pair of shoes, or you just get.
Oh, Justin, because it was half of it went to my mother. It's just incredible when you think of it.
Yeah.
And then as a few years go by, so you're now getting to 18, so you're probably earning £5 a week.
Right, yes.
Instead of £3 a week. But Bieber was always really cheap.
Right, yes.
So,
amazing,
I mean, if you look at the clothes I'm wearing there with Bieber, the one with Daniel and I, that is what they called a maxi black culotte dress.
Right, yeah.
And I had, and with that, although it isn't showing in that photo, I'm down the King's Road at Ozzie Clark.
How old are you then? Again, 16?
No, by 19.
19, yes.
18, 19. Yeah. And I'm also going to New Bond Street because we all went to New Bond Street to buy our shoes. So at the end of the month, whatever was left over, because I didn't have to buy food or anything, Justin. Transport was really cheap in those days.
So
and we didn't drink, you see. That's the difference. I never smoked.
Yeah.
So all the money that I had went on clothes. Went on clothes.
And you're saying that when you go down to Chelsea and that, and people staring at you as you're walking down the road?
Because the King's Road, when we found, because Ozzie Clark and his wife, they just was off a side street, three quarters of the way up the King's Road.
Right, okay.
And they were off on a side street, and that was their studio.
On the map, really, would you say,
the designers, the people that then started to. Because the King's Road, although it's Chelsea, was not.
No.
And then all of a sudden you had all the shops starting to open. Because don't forget, Bieber was in Kensington. Kensington High Street was the big Bieber there, and Bieber started off in a small house in Kensington. Her front room, and her husband. That was just their front room with their clothes.
Well, it's like public houses, isn't it? A pub is pubs always starts out people selling their
their pochino or whatever. So it was everything was available like that, because as I said, but no, we always had, wherever I worked, Justin. We there was always a canteen, so and it cost nothing. You know what I mean? It was so subsidised that maybe 50p or something.
Yeah.
But then 50p was a lot out of your every day.
Yeah.
So it's probably 2 and 6. I can't remember. Everything was so heavily subsidised.
So what was the currency then? What was the old English?
Pounds, shillings and pence.
Right. So, yeah.
I didn't earn very much money, whereas the difference now, Justin. And also, like you were saying earlier about when we were talking earlier, and I said, you know, it was very, you know, the posh thing that we did was to go to Joe Lyons.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But mainly you ate at home because your mother cooked. Most women cooked.
Yeah.
It's shocking how many people do not know, how many women do or men don't know how to cook. Some children never even have a home meal. All they get is these chemical takeaways, which
they sit on the floor with a, you know, if they're lucky with a paper plate, but usually no plates. They sit on the floor with a plastic polystyrene, you know, thing.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have that in there. And the one thing that and another thing that you often would have, if your mother, you know, if was fish and chips on a Friday. Yeah. Always had fish and chips on a Friday.
That's the insanity of these kids now. I mean, Charlotte, not only does she not interested in fish and chips, she thinks Fish and Chip Friday on a Friday at school is like a nonsense. You know?
Yes,
you think you know, it's the insanity of, like, you know, because their taste buds are.
Oh yes, and it's much broader.
Yes. What would you eat? What would be typical meals?
Well,
in the week, living with your mum and dad.
Well, my mother, she because she was a really good cook. As I say, she was taught to cook by Mrs. Bramwell. Because if it was anything to do with my grandmother, it was just cabbage, cabbage stinging up the place.
But she used to make, I remember the onion soup was really good, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was. I'd be so glad if I could make it like that.
Yeah, but you know what? You know why, Justin? No. No, stock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's stock, and so it could be anything. Beef, it can be anything. So what you do is you boil the bones down, Justin.
But I mean,
and Sheila still does that. That's how she makes all her. She does buy some of the Waitrose stock, but if she's making something with bones,
much better. Yeah, do it naturally.
Yeah, and you put and then you skim off all the nasty, not nasty, but the fat off the top, and that is your basic stock. Yeah. So
they weren't. It wouldn't be a surprise having a pig's head in a pot, would it?
No. My mother never did that. Oh, trotters.
Didn't they? I thought
trotters, Justin.
Right.
I mean, I was never a big meat eater. I mean, I love my mother's.
Grandad loved the chicken's tongue, didn't he?
Oh, he likes, yeah. I mean, one of the main things which a lot of people do is what's the one with crackling on, Justin? When you make those big. No, the big pieces of they're like pork chop, not pork chops, but the individual ones, and then you've got this big thick layer of crackling.
Right.
Sheila loves everything. She doesn't like crackling, which is really.
I was the opposite. I used to absolutely love Nan's crackling.
Yes.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
You know, it was the best thing on the plate for me.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah.
Is that funny that because Sheila's a big meat eater.
She does, yeah. She loves meat.
It's funny that she doesn't like crackling.
Yeah. But my mother was a really good cook, and as I say, she learnt a lot of her cooking skills from Mrs. Bramwood.
Right.
And she taught my mother, you know.
So what did you eat in a week then?
In the week, my mother would make say, what would you call fish cakes. I really love it, but always made with salmon, tin salmon.
Right.
So although we weren't rich, we did have good food, and my mother and my dad did have, even when he was a still fixer.
Yeah, he had access to.
He had good, and we had access also to Smithfield Market.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And also in the Crown, because I think
the black market as well.
Every Sunday, near enough every Sunday, Justin. What was brought in? Smoked salmon.
Right. Yes.
We had smoked salmon nearly every Sunday.
You get bored of it after a while.
I would touch it. I never liked it. Oh gosh, no.
Oh, great.
No, I never liked
fish cakes.
My mother would make fish cakes. Shepherd's pie. She'd often make stews, beef stews.
Right.
And the reason, or was it lamb stew? I think it was lamb stew, but my mother made it so that the lamb was just filaments. It wasn't any chunks of meat in it, Justin. It was just tiny bits of. It was slaked right the way down. Also with lots of carrots and turnips and onion, and it was fantastic. And as you say about her onion soup.
Yeah.
So we and also like if you had tea. because most people had their tea. You always had tea when you came home from school. So it could be fish paste or on bread or stuff like that. But no, always really good food in my house because my mother cooked really well. Except for the vegetables, the classic
boiling.
Okay, Anne, we'll be back by about 2:20. Now put on the vegetables at 2:00.
Right, yeah.
So, and we always had broccoli. Not broccoli, we didn't have broccoli then. It was always cauliflower.
Same with avocados, or no avocados until the 70s? Or...
you had broccoli, so you had cauliflower. We'd never really had cabbage in the house because I think my mother was so sick and tired of cabbage being boiled 24/7. The whole house stank in Dagenham of cabbage, so no cabbage. So when cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and there was another mainstay. So as I say, Justin, it'd be in a pot, big pot, absolutely to the top in water, and I'd turn it on at 2:00, bring it to the boil, turn it right down to number 1, and those vegetables cooked until my parents came in, and they'd go, and they were lovely, wonderful.
What about like holidays as well? Because we haven't talked about that. Should we finish there for today?
Yes,
holidays.
Holidays. Yeah.
And then next time I'd love to talk about like when you were like. Talking about the music and going out.
Oh gosh,
and everything.
So holidays were brilliant.
It's interesting.
We were one of the few people again amongst all the poor.
So I think Dad's family never took them on holiday. That's something Dad continued. Never taking us on holiday.
I know it's weird, isn't it, Justin? But I suppose I can understand that because we always went on holiday.
Yes.
And look at me. Any chance, even didn't matter how much little money I had. I was always lucky enough to have friends who'd say, "Oh, yeah, you can come and stay at our house. Oh, my aunt is going away. If you want to stay there for a week." And do you remember that caravan we went to one time? And I really hated caravans, but we went for a week down to a caravan.
No, I remember we went away a lot. But when you were, what was your first holiday? Do you remember?
Oh yes, our first holiday, Justin, was always went to Ramsgate. And Ramsgate was fantastic. So I think we maybe started going on holiday. Because I think when I got to, about 5 maybe.
Right, 5, okay.
Because don't forget, money, maybe even a bit older, I can't remember now, because again, rationing. Ramsgate was wonderful, and we used to go to a boarding house. So what we do is go for 2 weeks.
So boarding house, B&B, bed and breakfast.
Yeah, bed and breakfast.
This is typical, wasn't it? It was a typical thing.
Yeah.
And they were notorious, weren't they? The ladies who ran them.
Yeah, but this couple were wonderful.
Great.
They were absolutely lovely.
Normally the dragons, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they weren't. No. They were really
very accommodating.
Yeah. Fantastic. I'll say in a moment. So I remember when we first. So what we could do on holiday, with your grandfather being as tight as anything, unless it's going to the pub. But only for beers.
Yes.
Not for Coke.
Right. Yeah.
Or a bag of crisps.
Yes.
Coke, do you know how much that costs?
Yes.
You could buy 3 pints for that, and 2 litres for your mother. So we'd go on holiday, Justin, and my father would carry all the suitcases. So he's got myself, my mum, my brother, and me. So we're going on holiday, and we'd leave the house, and my mother would go back 3 times to make sure the door was locked.
Right. Yeah. Well,
every single time. Yeah. Then we'd walk down to Farrington Road, get the train.
Do you have like big suitcases or?
Yes.
Yeah.
My father like this, 2 big suitcases, Justin, really big ones. When I say big, they were heavy anyway. Yes. And don't forget, in those days, that material was always heavy material.
Yes, yeah.
But we used to go to Gamages, Justin. I haven't mentioned Gamages, but if you wanted anything posh that wasn't from Exmouth Street Market, or you'd go to Gamages, because that was the expensive place, and that was just at the back of where's all the jewellers, Hatton Garden. So you go up the Italian Hill, walk through Hatton Garden, and then you come to Chancery Lane, near Chancery Lane, and there was Gamages. So we used to go to Gamages. So if you wanted anything that was good quality, you always went to Gamages. So that my dad bought the suitcases, obviously from Gamages. And So my father carried these heavy suitcases, but I suppose we didn't have tons of clothes, Justin, so it always seemed a lot, but nothing like suitcases with the 9 trillion clothes that we all go away
well, that's it, or a T-shirt will last you 4 days probably, wouldn't it? If you're having a bath for 4 days or a week,
well, they put you in the sea, that's right, like we went in the sea every day. So, so I don't know why my parents how they found it, you don't know, you just go on holiday.
Yes.
So we went to Ramsgate, and I think I shared a room with my brother, and my parents had a room. And the people that owned it, she was your typical, very caring, dumpy woman who could have been 90, Justin. She could have been 60. She could have been 40. Had no idea. Her husband was tall and rangy, and it was only... Was it breakfast and dinner?
Yes.
That's right. It was breakfast and dinner.
It's only breakfast as well, isn't it?
Well, in those days we had dinner, but we always have our lunch out. So we go there, and you get up in the morning for breakfast, and we had boiled egg and soldiers, and they'd all paint. He'd paint all these lovely pictures on the. So it was on the eggs and everything, and they were lovely couple.
Yeah, it's a nice experience.
So you go there. And most of the time it was cold, and so you always had those dividers on the beach, Justin, windbreakers.
Yes, windbreakers.
You always had to windbreakers, and then you'd be on the beach all morning, and then you go for lunch. Now a lot of the fish and chips they only sold the fish they caught that day. And there was one fish and chip shop which was fantastic. If you got there a bit late, because the queues would go right the way down the road, Justin, and if you got there a bit late, they'd sold out.
So you wouldn't be getting cod and chips. You'd be getting something.
You'd get haddock, plaice and chips.
Cod, all the normal ones.
Cod, haddock, but plaice. Plaice was always the expensive one, Justin. Plaice was always the most expensive fish. There was no money wasted on fun fish. I think maybe we might have got a ride, but I think they were free. And then, of course, my parents, we'd go and have fish and chips, and my parents go to the pub, and we'd all sit outside and have a drink with my parents. Or I think they probably might have relented and got us something. And then grandfather's face, Then we're back on the beach, Justin, and you stay on the beach until it's time to go back to go and have a wash, because you didn't have showers or anything like that, but you did have a bath. So there'd be one bath for however many people, and then you'd have your dinner. And then my parents, then we'd go out in the evening.
So walk along the promenade, or
no, to the nearest to whichever pub and for years.
Did they allow kids in there? I suppose maybe the beach.
All that area, Justin, but because if you think about those days, a lot of women in lots of areas, like Northern Ireland,
no women.
They weren't allowed in. I think they had to go into the snug.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, I think the locals can just make it hostile to keep people out, can't they? So even if by law you're allowed to, a lot of places would be hostile. Because
Ramsgate was a nice, and it was a very family orientated area. And again, what entertainment? Okay, people do go to the pictures. Oh, and I'll mention later on. I forgot to say that I went to the pictures nearly every week with my mother.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice.
Always a romance, Justin.
Well, really, oh dear. Yeah, well, that's
why. And my mother.
Lifetime of romantic books.
And that's why with my mother, she couldn't read, Justin. So I brought her a romance magazine called Romeo, and she could look at the pictures.
Yes.
I was taken to the cinema from a very young age with my mother, because that was my mother's treat. Was to take me, and then and I forgot again. All the things I forgot. You asked what children did. We went Saturday morning. Forgotten. You asked what children did. We went Saturday morning pictures, Justin.
Yeah, that's
the one near Exeter Street Market, which I think is closed now. I think closed years ago. Every Saturday morning we go to Exeter Street. We would go to Saturday morning pictures.
Right, so that's something to look forward to every week.
All kids, no adults.
The whole place, what a nightmare.
Well, not for the kids.
No, exactly.
Up until I got to about 13, 14, I'd go to Saturday morning pictures, Justin. Well, not every week, because the same film, whatever film came out, and, because in those days, the classic, I think there is still, it was a U, and then it was, what was it, a U, an A and an X.
Right.
X was X-rated, it was about, you couldn't be, unless you were 18.
Was it double A as well?
I don't know. I can't remember. But when I was younger, it was always, a U. But that could be cowboys. It could be, anything. So, so go to the cinema. So going quickly back to that, and then, as I say, we got a television. Again, one of the first people in the street to have a television.
Well, when was this then? Would you think?
Maybe when I was 13, 14.
Wow. So of course they're black and white, aren't they? But,
black and white.
But still amazing. Most people
also television wasn't on all the time because you had the little girl. No, you had the little girl.
Yes.
And on Sunday afternoon there was always a cowboy on, Justin.
Oh.
And everything, swashbuckling thing. But I went off.
A lot of horror.
I got to the age of like 13, and of course being brought up very political, as I say.
Yeah.
I sort of I couldn't bear cowboy films because of the treatment of the Indians, because Indians were always the evil, bad. And then when I started to understand political what really happened in America and to the Indians, after that I hated cowboys. I couldn't bear them.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because even when I was a kid, we had cowboys and Indians, we had the toys and we had the movies still. So it was incredible, wasn't it? Going up to
very huge influence.
Charlotte and Ari Max, I won't know what we're talking about, cowboys and Indians.
No.
That was such a massive thing, wasn't it, culturally, up until the
mid-70s. So we went from having literally nothing and only out. But even when you had a television, you still weren't going to stay in and watch. Your mother would be, what are you doing in here? You're under my feet. Out now. Come on, out. Look, the sun's shining, or it's not raining, or it stopped raining.
Or it is raining anyway.
It stopped raining. That was a classic when it stopped raining. So and then gradually things, as I say, we got a telephone. Started going abroad. When I started going,
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they never drank coffee until I started drinking coffee, So because they weren't that interested, because jumping, we went for years to the Isle of Wight, and then for some reason.
You did, or with your mum and dad?
No. For some reason, they decided we were no longer going to Ramsgate anymore. So Sheila's now about 4, I think. So I'm 7 years older. So what make me 12 or something, Justin? We are now going to the Isle of Wight. So and it wasn't Butlins, because Butlins was very, very expensive. But we went to another big holiday camp.
Right. Okay.
And that's that photo of mum and dad dancing.
Right.
That one.
Yes.
That was at the holiday. Mum's got she's got the 60s.
Yes. The honey
helmet.
Yes.
Helmet where she had it. She'd go there and she'd have it sprayed so much that it wouldn't move. All the ladies they'd sit there in their rollers and then
that's it. Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah. So I went where the first place I went to. We went to Spain. Because we got the bus to because that's what you did then. You'd be on the resort, just in the resort, and then you'd get the bus. You'd book the bus because you always stayed at a hotel. Do you know it cost £13 return with your hotel?
Wow.
And this is when I was now working at Commercial Union, and by then I was shopping. Oh, sorry, my leg's on a bit dead. Shopping at Bieber, and that was the classic one where we were in. I was wearing a culotte, all-in-one culotte dress, coming up to like here, very short. And we're in Barcelona. And there was a group of all you saw all the time, Justin, were these women absolutely covered in black.
Yes, yeah.
Or the whole cow, the whole thing, all of them covered in black. And I was with Jan Redding, and Jan was brought up. I think she'd gone to Catholic school because she went to a girls' school, and she went to an all-girls school, and it was Catholic. I don't think she was that religious. We never talked about religion as such. But we're going to go to the huge cathedral, the really famous one in Barcelona.
Yes, the What's it called again? The Salvador Dali was involved in that, wasn't he?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. But before we go, Justin, we're coming towards it, and there's these group of old women. I'm sure I've told you this, and as we come along, this old lady gets hold of my skirt, and she starts. I mean, literally like an old crone, cackling away because of the clothes we're wearing. You see, and Jan Redding was not allowed into the cathedral because I had something with me. And I was able to cover my...
Oh, covering your hair, right, of course, yes.
Something like that. And Jan cried.
Oh, did she?
And I thought, why are you crying?
Yes.
You know, I mean, I just went in. I mean, obviously, the architecture and but, you know, for that. So, yeah, so I didn't go abroad until... I was 16, I think. I went to 16, 17. And then a few years after that, all of a sudden, my parents thought... My father was, and that's when Sheila went abroad. They took her to the... We were talking about this the other day, and I said, yeah, I don't know why it is, but why is it you got... Because I think they went to Portugal, Justin. They went to, you know, one of the most, you know, one of the expensive holidays in Portugal, and they took Sheila there.
But obviously, you was 11 by then.
Oh, well, and also I wasn't... by then... my parents could leave me at home, Justin, so they were still going...
Sagrada Familia.
Sorry?
Sagrada Familia, is it?
I don't know, Justin.
Yeah, that's it.
The huge basilica one, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the really interesting one, yes. Yeah. That's still being built today. Yeah, La Familia, I think they call it. So so that's what you did, Justin, when you went on holiday. But can you imagine it? £13 to fly there, and your full food in your hotel. Yeah. I mean, that's it, isn't it? It's quality of life, because wages have stagnated for so many decades now, like 20 years, I think. You know, the wages haven't changed, so it's not like people are getting paid more and things cost more. Things cost more now, and people don't have as much. Whereas, as you said in the past, you could
manage, but then we didn't buy the clothes we bought. We didn't, you know, the bills. If like as I say, you didn't have a television, you didn't have, and also then we got a washing machine, which was downstairs. But it was one of those where you had to have a ringer on it.
Okay, yes.
You know, we got a washing machine because before that I would be going up to the laundry.
Right.
Do you remember carrying right, and to the lawn, my sister, you know, my brother, you know, like so you didn't have any of this. So your bills, Justin, was just basically was your rent and your travel and your food, because people didn't buy tons and tons of clothes.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You know, you just because people just didn't.
No, that's it. I think just instinctively.
Yeah. And you went to the bars. I had to go. And also I used to go swimming a lot as well. We used to go to Merlin Street bars.
Yes,
but you were only allowed in there for 1 hour. You had to wear number yellow out.
Oh, right,
got your red. Yes.
We had that's
when I was
a kid. Yeah, we had the same. Yeah,
you had your armbands.
Until then, yeah.
And then you had your time,
because the kids would be in there all day if they.
Of course, yes. And it's it's Merlin Street, and it's got loads of all London swimming pools would have been the same, always packed, just in the children, and it didn't cost very much. And then every Friday we'd go there for a bath.
No, that's good. Yeah, what do you think, Mum? So that's an hour and 12 minutes.
Okay,
so stop there today, and we can come back to that. So that's good. So we've got up to 15.
We've gone back and forth, and
that's good,
as I say, I forgot about, you know. Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop. Shall I?
Okay, darling, yeah.